Screams that finally woke Martine. She shot up in bed. It was pitch dark, and it took a few seconds for her to realize she'd been asleep. None of it had happened. There was no mountain, and no bird. She was safely in her bed in Hampshire, England, with her parents sleeping soundly across the corridor. Heart pounding, she sank back into the pillows. She was a bit dizzy, and she still felt very, very hot. Hot? How could it possibly be hot? It was midwinter. Martine's eyes flew open. Something was wrong. Frantically, she fumbled for the bedside lamp, but for some reason it wasn't working. She sat up again. An orange light was flickering beneath the bedroom door, and grey ribbons of smoke were drifting up from it. "Fire!" yelled Martine. "Fire!" She leapt out of bed, caught her foot in the blankets and crashed to the ground. Tears of panic sprang into her eyes. She wiped them away roughly. "If I don't think clearly," she told herself, "I'll never get out alive." The corner of the door turned molten red and broke away, and a plume of smoke poured in after it. Martine began coughing violently. She clawed at the floor for yesterday's sweatshirt, discarded there when she put on her pyjamas. Almost cheering with thankfulness when she found it immediately, she tied it round her face. Then she scrambled to her feet, heaved up the window, and leaned out into the starless night. What was she supposed to do? Jump? Martine stood paralysed with terror. Far below her, the snow glinted mockingly in the darkness. Behind her, the room was filling with smoke and fumes, and the fire was roaring like a factory furnace. It was blisteringly, murderously hot. So hot that she felt as if her pyjamas were melting off her back. The window was the only way out. Swinging her legs over the sill, she reached out and grabbed a clump of ivy. It was as wet as lettuce and came away in her hand. Martine almost toppled after it. She tried again, this time knocking away the packed snow and groping behind the vine for a pipe or a crevice or anything at all that would give her a handhold. Nothing. Martine's eyes streamed. Moments remained between her and disaster, but she jumped back into the room, snatched the sheets off the bed and knotted them together, tying one end to the bed leg nearest the window. There was no time to test it. She just had to hope that it would hold. As fast as she dared, she climbed out of the window, clinging to the sheet rope with both hands. She knew very well that it wouldn't reach the ground, but it might get her a little closer. She was still high in the air when her hands, stiff as fish fingers in the gusting Arctic wind, lost their grip and she crashed into the snow. Martine dragged herself upright, shivering, and hobbled along the side of the house to the front. She was soaked to the skin, and one wrist was aching. But as soon as she rounded the corner, she no longer thought about that. She was too busy taking in the appalling scene before her. Her home was a raging inferno. Flames leapt in every window, and coils of smoke billowed into the night sky. A crowd had gathered on the lawn, and all along the street, doors were opening and more people were rushing to join them. Sirens announced the rapid approach of the fire brigade. "Mum! Dad!" yelled Martine, and she ran round the side for the front of the house. Shocked faces turned in her direction. There was a collective gasp. The Allens' elderly next-door neighbour opened her mouth when she saw Martine rushing across the lawn, but no sound came out. Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, who lived further up the street, were also rooted to the spot. But Mr. Morrison, a burly former rugby player, shook himself into action at the last moment and managed to catch Martine as she flew by. "Let me go!" sobbed Martine. But even as she spoke, she knew it was too late. The walls of the house were collapsing in a molten heap. Within minutes, there was nothing left. The fire brigade had arrived, but the most they could do was put the flames out. Mrs. Morrison put her arms around Martine and held her tightly. "I'm so sorry."